Omre Amical AïVANHOV. Part 2. Quebec, December 2, 2019. Well, dear friends, we will be able to continue our exchanges and your questions and continue to resonate together with the truth. So, dear friend, I'm listening. What are the next questions, or written, of course, or oral testimonies? Sister, these are questions. The brother approaches. Brother, hello. Hello. Brother, first of all, I would like to thank you for having spoken to us very much about the present moment, because what I love about the present moment, it is always present. Laughs. Brother, play on words. But, I have a question about the absolute. It is true that it was all of us who built this dream. It is true that it will dissolve, because we are going back to the absolute. Now, my question is there an after absolute? Laughs. Beloved, the absolute has neither, nor before, nor during. Laughs. The absolute is the totality of the created and the incremented. It cannot be considered, neither before, nor as after, nor as becoming, nor as evolution. It is the ultimate truth that puts an end to the dream of creation and the illusion of the suffering of good and evil, which is real, of course, when we are incarnated, but which has no subsistence or consistency within the absolute truth. Good and evil, form, dimensions are all part of the dream. When you remember who you are, beyond being, that is, in the fusion of being and non-being, the fusion of white paradise and black hole, you find that there is neither before, after, nor during. There is just what is present in the present instant, and in the present instant, in your presence as well as in your absence. The absolute is the ultimate. There is no post-ultimate. The absolute is the moment when the alpha becomes aware that it is the omega. The circle is complete. The path of the dream has been fully followed. As soon as you remember, there's no room for one after. There is just room for the present instant, and in the present instant, all the dreams of creation are contained within it. A gate puts an end to any quest, any interrogation, any questioning about who you are. You can ask yourself questions about what you want, what you are going to eat tonight, what the weather will be like tomorrow, what car you are going to buy, what you are going to meet a woman or a brother in a few days or a few weeks, but you cannot question who you are, nor about a temporal notion or any future, because in a gap, there is nothing to become. Everything is already registered, and everything has already come, and everything has been experienced. So the ultimate is really ultimate, and there can be no post-absolute. Just as there was never any before the absolute. The front of the absolute is part of the dream. The afterlife of the absolute would be part of a projection of consciousness. The absolute is not consciousness, neither supra, nor intra, nor normal. There is in a gap, in freedom, in truth, it is the same thing. There is the great all, the great emptiness, and the great silence, and the whole truth. Silence. All the worlds were free experiences, except in the worlds I had called closed. But the confinement of the worlds, realized by the icons, is part of the dream scenario. There's nothing to judge. There is everything to accept, everything to transmute through acceptance and embrace. This puts an end to any questioning, to any becoming, to any evolution or involution. That's when you find out you've always been there. What can be missing? What can there be next? There is no further action. Who would want a sequel from the moment he saw a gap? Who would like to inhabit a given form, dimension or world, except the one who still believes himself to be suffering from something deficient? Only the one who believes that consciousness is the end result, as supposing one after the present, one after the event, or one after the lived absolute. Truth does not need tomorrow, truth does not need yesterday, truth does not need a scenario, a form, a world or a manifestation. It is the only place where you feel and live the certainty of being complete, of being whole, where nothing can be missing, whatever your life, whatever your age, whatever your assumptions, whatever your experiences. And as I said, I repeat, you can only recognize yourself in this. But of course, as long as you have not fully recognized yourself, there will always be this question about tomorrow, about an evolution, about another dimension, about a future. In the absolute, there is nothing to become, because everything has already come, and everything is already accomplished in its entirety. As Buddha said, consciousness is a disease, a total imposture. It is no more real than this body. So of course, Consciousness is real as long as you're in consciousness. The body is real as long as you're in this body. But you're not this body, you're not a world. You're the whole and you are the nothing. It's not a pun, it's something to live for. The completeness is total, the joy is total, nothing is missing. Everything is there and nothing is there. The fusion of being and non-being is the reconnection of nothing in the whole and everything in the nothing. Nothing is separate. Everything is one and there is no one. Moreover, when we say a person and when we say that there is no one, it means the same thing. There is no one or I am a person. Do you see the difference? There is no such thing. When you say you are a person, in fact you are only saying that there is no one, it is the same word. Simply, the verb attached to it changes its experience and meaning. I am a person or am a person. You see, the same word has two different meanings. Likewise, when we talked about living spirit consciousness, the supramental, the self, the I am or the I am one, it was a step that allowed alchemy to live agape. The self has never been the goal. It is in this sense that all spiritual journeys, even those of the great beings who set foot on this earth, could not reveal the truth. I think that's already been said. Christ said I and my Father are one. There is one proposal missing. I am the Father. There's no one there. You're a person and yet there is no one. If you see all the subtlety and content behind this simple word person, or character, it's the same thing, it's a charade, it's a dream. And when we say it's a dream, it doesn't mean it's an illusion. This is the reality when we are incarnated, from which we cannot escape. Even if we leave our body, even if we are agape, the character is there until his last breath. But he is no longer in charge, he is in the service of who you are. It makes a big difference in what is lived. At that moment, everything is easy, everything is fluid, everything is a miracle and everything is graceful. Whereas when you still believe that there is a person of any kind, you are a master, you're in the relationship of distance, separation, worship or detestation, no matter what, but there is a distance. In the present state, in the absolute state, in the truth of agape, there can be no distance. There is no time, there is no space. Of course, we remain clear that time is passing on this world, but it is seen for what it is, that is, a dream. It is not an expression or a concept. The dream is ephemeral life, the dream is creation in its totality, as well in the three worlds. Remember, we are all in each other. All particles and all worlds are in each other. It is quantum entanglement or interlacing, with proven equations, today. From that point on, what is the notion of apparent space, the notion of elapsing time, still worth? It can no longer mean anything, even if you are subject to time within the illusory reality of this world's dream. But you're no longer fooled. There is acceptance of the dream, there is transcendence of the dream. The dreamer is awake, but he lets the dream end, because he knows that everyone is not at the same time as his awakening from the dream. That's what Epa said when he told you let the dreamers dream. The intelligence of the light will awaken them at the moment that has been written. Don't try to convince anyone of anything. Simply be who you are and from there, the intelligence of the light acts, in your life, in your relationships and in all the circumstances of your life. Everything else is cinema, everything else is passing. You are born, you die, but you, in truth, you were never born, you have never died. Everything depends, as Buddha said, on the point of view, that is, on the location of the consciousness. Is consciousness inscribed in the body consciousness, that is, are you identified with your form? Buddha has been assailing you for years that you were not that body. Christ had said that you were this body, but you are not this body, or if you prefer, that you are on this earth, but you are not from this earth. You are at the limit of all lands and planets, whatever your origins and stellar lines. All this was for a while, because it was necessary to framing, to direct the story towards the moment of awakening. But when you're awake, the dream doesn't matter anymore. But this is different from waking up in the morning, because in the morning you get out of bed and live your active life. But there, when you wake up, you do not leave your body or your life, you become, as has been said, life. And everything goes smoothly. As Nisargadatta said, when I see that I am everything, it is love. When I see that I am nothing, it is wisdom. There is no contradiction between everything and nothing. The whole contains nothing and the nothing contains the whole, in the same way that each of us contains the whole of creation in the heart, at the 0 point. There is no destruction, it was never created, creation being the dream. it's been through. It is as if your consciousness were living in time and creation was out of time and out of space. Once again, it's a living thing. It is difficult to translate into words, into concepts. But when it is actually lived, it leaves no doubt that everything that has been said to go through the written script is useless today. It is not to be rejected, it is not to be considered as harmful, but simply as elements of your awakening. There's nothing to judge, just to see that you're the truth, that's all. There can be no afterthought in the present instant and in the truth. The truth is timeless, it is permanent, it has always been there. The natural state is the state of life as it unfolds outside human society, outside any organization, that unfolds spontaneously. The seed germinates, the flower comes out, it is done naturally. All the potential is in the seed. In the same way, all the potential of creation, all the created, is in the heart of the heart. And when you live all the created, that you are all, that is, agape, it means that you have accepted to be nothing. This does not mean that you have to be nothing in the dream. Everyone goes through his dream with the most appropriate circumstances for him/her, in age, emotional, financial, societal and country situation. These are the circumstances that are, for each of us, best suited to discovering what has always been there. That's right, I remember. It is not a mechanism of historical memory, it is a mechanism of memory of the creation of history. It's not really the same thing, is it? There is no after of the absolute, there is no before. It's out of time and out of space. And that's the only truth, absolute. I refer you to what Daniel said before the heavenly weddings, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, concerning absolute truth and relative truth. Relative truth will always depend on the location of consciousness and will always be polarized, in good or evil in this world, but also in the universes, in that which is electrically, positively or negatively charged. It's the polarity. In the absolute, there is no polarity. The ultimate phase before the absolute, yes, it exists, it has been called the primordial androgynous. It is the moment when the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine merge into the same reality, the androgynous, where there is neither man nor woman, nor particularism linked to what we call masculine or feminine polarity. That is why it has been called the androgynous. But the androgynous is still inscribed within a brain, within a form, it is the prerequisite for dissolution into truth. It is the state of unity, it is the state of the magnified self, which does not look at itself in its own light, but accepts to be nothing. And at that moment, you're everything. The completeness is such, once again, that there can be no question about tomorrow. Keep your concerns about tomorrow, as I said, about the daily things of life within the dream, but not for the truth. At the time, I think Bida had talked about the one in the prison who only knew the prison. How can he imagine that behind the bars and the prison door, there is something else? He only knows what he can perceive, feel, touch and see. But on the other hand, you can remember, by embracing, accepting, saying yes, with the turny breathing movement that Ebba taught you, with the fire of the sacred heart, with the agape resonance and the agape resonance network, you're getting closer to the fusion of being and non-being. Everything else is in fact only cogitations, assumptions and mental activities or activities of consciousness. You are not the conscience. You express yourself through consciousness, as you manifest yourself through a body. But you are anterior to all bodies, all forms, all dimensions and all histories. You're all stories, you're all worlds. Knowing this by living it, what can there be after? What can remain as a question, as a becoming? What can there be after agape? What can agape lack? Nothing. Everything is perfect. As you say, I think, everything is fine. Laughs. Everything is in order. It is the end of disorder, the end of polarity, the end of alternation. It is the great silence, the great emptiness. So, whether you call it great silence, great emptiness, absolute, ultimate, the Parabrahman as Nisargadatta used to say, these are words that are adapted to the culture, to the vocabulary, but which do not easily reflect the truth you are living. It is much easier to express it through art, through song, through poetry, through the spontaneity of your gift of yourself in service to others who are only you. And when it is said that the others are you, the one who is agape knows it, lives it. He cannot do something back to anyone, because he knows it is him. It's not out of fear of any karma or pain, it's because it can't be any other way. It's something spontaneous, you gave yourself to life. You're free to go. Freedom does not need form, freedom does not need conscience of any kind. And as it has been said and repeated countless times, you can only recognize yourself. There can be no uncertainty when it is lived. So of course, we saw it through the questions in the first part, at the end, of a sister who said that she had lived through this and that it had moved away. No, as I explained, it is simply the habits that come to the forefront, that you need to perceive. And moreover, many of you now say clearly when you're in a relationship of any kind, in front of any brothers and sisters, beyond any energetic or vibratory perception, beyond any judgment, you instantly know if the one in front of you is still dreaming and believes himself a character, or is no longer a person. You cannot disguise the truth in a gape, but as I say, we have nothing to condemn, let the dreamers dream. But you see clearly, you're lucid, you don't judge. You're accompanying. And when a brother or sister expresses a suffering, lived, real for him or her, whatever it may be, you can only sympathize, you can only share, it is empathy, because you know by living it that the other is really you. At that moment, what do you want to do as wrong, or as right? No, you're acting because you can't do otherwise than to be in a gape. You have sacrificed yourself, you're free, and you clearly perceive that the other is entirely, completely, totally, without any doubt possible, and besides those who live at gape see it clearly. When you are in a relationship of any kind, even 2 minutes, in a business, with a child, with a parent, with a husband, a wife, when the other is in the character or when he is in the truth. You see the one who wears a mask or the one who is natural, without judgment, because you know that you too have dreamed, that we too have dreamed. And so, there is not a forgiveness, there is nothing to forgive, but a state of grace that is real, that is total. You cannot escape the momentum of service to the other. You cannot avoid any request, even if you want to or do not have the time to do so. You can only answer, you can only be open whatever you are asked. Even if you want to do otherwise, you can no longer. It's a natural state, it's not an effort. It is a great relaxation, it is a great facility, and it is also a great evidence. Silence. We let the agape resonance, which is being lived, establish itself, 2 minutes, before the next question, there. Silence. Come on, we continue to play that game of questions and answers and testimonies. Who wants to come and question or testify? Sister. A sister is approaching. Sister. Hello hombre arm. Hello. Sister. It's a dream. In the morning, when I woke up, I was amazed to see that there had been a snowstorm with an industrial quantity. The snow, the snow, the snow, the snow, it was beyond comprehension. I see everything and I see the neighborhood, the people who are in their driveway run to make small furrows in their driveway with small shovels of children. The only way out of my house was to go through, out the second floor window, and it's very high, I mean it took courage. And now I have the decision, I have a certainty that this is the movement I must do. No fear, no hesitation, I fly away, I go out the window, lightly dressed, I feel no effect of the cold, and all this as the crow flies, as the glider flies. I get to the ground, and the snow melts. While the others are busy shuffling, I do everything. Magic, magic. And I wish it were that way. Laughs. Sister, thank you. I would like to hear your appreciation, please. Thank you. I would like to point out that snow, like ice, like hail, is a white paradise. It is also, of course, a cold fire. It is also the waters from above that are marked by fire. The cold fire. The fire is not hot. All the brothers and sisters who joined the sun, this was already the case long before the discovery of the truth, at the moment of the liberation of the bodies of eternity enclosed in the sun, after the celestial weddings, in the following years. Of course, a few of you, fewer than we thought, have lived the body of eternity, the crystal body if you will, which is the solar body. The light you see up there shining is nothing more than your eternity. And those who have been in the sun will all tell you the same thing, it's not hot, it's incredibly sweet. There is neither hot nor cold, there is a softness, a envelopment, like no other, like when you live agape, here, in this body, you have become the sun, you have become the sun again, you have become the sun, among others. It is the White Paradise. It is not for nothing that the White Paradise, at the time, more than a year ago, Ebba had told you about what had been written, at the initial moment of creation, that were taken up by singers, especially in this 20th century, including a song called The White Paradise. I invite you, not to the lyrics but to the images of this song, and of this gentleman singer who was called, I believe, that it was not even his real name, Michael Berger. Everything is there, the dream, the snow, the whale, the wolf, Jacob's ladder. All this was written, Ebba explained it last year. Snow is a white paradise, materialized on Earth. That is why Quebec is, as I said, the beacon of humanity. By horizontality and verticality. The horizontality of water, which covers countless territories of Quebec, but also by forests, trees, and also by snow, which, of course, you know in abundance within this country. It is the material representation, the material manifestation of the white paradise. And your dream describes it perfectly. You went out the window. The window is not the usual place to go out and in, is it? We're going in through the door. The door of the warrant, the door of destiny, during conception, but one leaves through the window of the soul, the kekra of the soul, the window of the spirit, or the kekra of the spirit. The dream you lived, simply brings you back to white heaven. Like before, our sister through her car dealership and the car so bright, it's the same thing. The multicolored one I was talking about during this month of December of this year lets you to the alchemy of Kellers, and therefore to the white paradise, and therefore to the absolute. It is the two sides of the same coin, being and non-being, the junction of being and non-being, Shanti Malaya, the abode of supreme peace and the fire of the sacred heart, the ascending crown of the heart, the sacred limnizate, the interdimensional Merdabak. It is the same thing, it reflects the same reality, which is access and return to the truth, prior to unity. I thank you for entrusting us with this dream, and this lived experience. Sister, thank you very much. Do not forget also that it had been said the previous year that the dream is the real, and that the real is only a dream. Since everything is nothing and nothing is everything. But this is indistinguishable and unverifiable by the mind, even by the soul and even by the spirit. This can only be verified by a gape. Come on, we can continue. Sister, a brother approaching. Brother, hello Omre arm. Hello. Brother, thank you for your support. It's a dream too, from last night. In the end, in this dream, there is the observer who looks at the following scene. In front of him, there is what one might perhaps think of as a character or someone, but in the end I do not see, or the observer does not see the form, but he sees as a big heart, a heart that is there in front of him, and in front of this heart, in the same scene, there is like a light with a sword, and then this light with the sword moves towards the heart to pierce it, but the heart seems to fear a little and it moves back, so 2, 3 times like that, in the dream, that's it, the light where the sword moves forward and the heart, him, well, moves back each time. And well, the rest of the dream, I don't really have it, it ends that way. The dreamer piercing with the sword is very important, it is the piercing of the heart, it is the opening of the precardium, it is the sword of Michael, or the sword of Metatron, or the sword of Christ. This sword that has come to cut, does not destroy, it comes to cut what is illusory. The dreams you express today have a common coloring, and send you back to the white paradise, as we have seen, to the piercing of the heart, to the opening of the heart, to the fire of the sacred heart, to the truth and the absolute of agape. Thank you very much. Brother, thank you to you. Silence. Sister, hello OMA. Now, we're gonna have to rehearse, aren't we? Sister, I'm here to ask a question about a health problem. 2 months ago, I was in great shape, I was in work, it was fine, and I was without movement standing in my kitchen and I felt a lumbar problem in the corner of the sacrum. Which one, up, down or sideways? Sister, it was mostly on the right side. Where there's a door. Sister, yes, and it lasted, and it still does, and then I went to see an osteopath, and then the osteopath tells me that I have this problem, but I have another one too, it's that in the tip of the 10th rib or the right ear, I have a pain that has been there since last Christmas. The osteopath told me that I had a blockage on my right side at chest level. At first she thought I wasn't living on my left side. She told me that that wasn't the problem, it was that I had a crystallization on my right side of the chest. Do you think I can do anything with the treatments to help that, or do I stick to trust the light to decrystallize all that? So there's no need to repeat, there's a connection established. I will answer you in several points. First of all, a general rule. For example, you want to go to a doctor because you have a wheezing in your left ear. It's the soul's song, unless of course there's a pathology. But often, people who are not aware that it is the song of the soul or the netta, go to CENT. They're not going to find anything. If you go to an osteopath, if this osteopath, even if he is very gifted, even full wittly, and if he lives nothing compared to the vitriol, he will find you all the miseries in the world. For example, a brother who would have the opening of the chakras from above, that is, who would receive the Holy Spirit, with the activation of the stars. If you go to an osteopath, what will he tell you? He will tell you that your skull is frozen, because he is not able to feel the level of openness where you are. Be very careful when you are living these mystical phenomena, real, of transmutation and transubstantiation, especially since there, for the past 2 months, and in particular I would even say, yes, it has been 2 months, we are already in December, from October we have had an influx of vitriol at the lower back, in the lumbar region. Those who had a fragility at this level, earlier, had problems even sometimes very serious, with calculus, with various phenomena at the level of this whole lumbar region but also of the small basin. Look around you, the number of ovarian cysts, right or left by the way, look at the number of nephritic colic or simply low back pain. I remind you or I tell you, because remembering, no, it won't remind you anything, that when you come into incarnation, 40 days before the egg is fertilized by the sperm, you're already there. And at the moment when you pass from heaven, as the Chinese say, unmanifested, what they call what is subtle or physical, you first penetrate the first fertilized cell, you send a thread of light, this thread of light enters very precisely on the 14th day after conception. In the lumbar region, under the second lumbar vertebra, for 2 months now, the cosmic vibratory energies have penetrated not only into the heart but have come to cleanse the lumbar region and the sacrum region with sometimes real inflammation and organic consequences, which are neither resistance nor deficiencies of anything, nor diseases, but which can lead to real, concrete, physical diseases. It is simply the erasure, the beginning of dissolution, the beginning of stasis, that some of you begin to live. All of a sudden, no more vital energy, or dizziness, or back pain, or even organic pathologies, serious, not to punish you this time, not to solve something, but because you're actually entering the first stages of the event, into the stasis. Earlier, we also had the testimony of a brother or sister whom we could not wake up. So be careful what even very sensitive therapists, osteopaths or energetic, tell you. They don't experience the same thing as you, because they will always interpret it wrong. For example, I mentioned the opening of the upper chakras, but it's the same when the soul dissolves above the right breast. Well, the osteopath will call it a crystallization, because he doesn't live, whereas it's a decrystallization. It's exactly the opposite. When you experience the rupture, or the tearing of the precardium, the lighting of the fire of the sacred heart, you can feel pain in your chest, in your ribs, everywhere. If you go to see an osteopath at that moment, he will tell you that you are not in your body, he will tell you that you are not breathing anymore, that you are not incarnate, but the poor, he does not live it, he cannot perceive it, he cannot feel at what is happening, since he only feels the bone level, or fluidic, but linked to the etheric, he does not access above the causal, outside you, you are beyond the causal. So some diseases, some pains, and many in recent months, some loss of vitality, even if it involves diseases, are intended to make you live the truth. It is no longer resistance or memories in these cases. So of course, when you compare, as you said a few months ago when it was in full form, vitality, it can be a problem, for the ephemeral, for the dream, but it is the establishment of the truth. And remember this notion that the therapist, who does not live at the same vibratory level as yours at the time you consult him, can only make an erroneous diagnosis and carry pathologies that do not exist, if it is only in their heads and perceptions that are linked to this alchemy between the ephemeral and the eternal. It's systematic. All the brothers and sisters who, long before that period, received the Holy Spirit, with the blood threads in their left nostrils, with the pressure on their heads, with the whistle of their left ear, which is the song of the soul, and who went to see therapists at that time, misled them by telling them that they were not incarnate, that they were no longer breathing in their skull. Well, yes, since there is no longer any primary respiratory movement, you spontaneously switch to cranial, ternary or trinitary respiratory movement and, of course, in their reference frame, and in their reference frame, that cannot be known. So that's something important to understand. Of course, this does not prevent you from getting treatment, but above all, do not believe what these brothers and sisters who are nevertheless in the service but who have not yet lived through this experience tell you. They can only translate it through their own frame of reference. The vibration you emit when the chakras are open actually gives the physical level the impression that it is frozen, because the energy has passed to a more subtle level, that's all. Now, in terms of what has happened over the past 2 months, it has already been said, I believe by myself last time and also by Eba, that there has been a penetration of cosmic energy into the sacrum and into the extremely powerful lumbar region whose purpose is precisely to promote the event, individual and collective. That's what it calls comments and explanations. Here too, of course, you did the right thing by going to a doctor's therapist, but above all, accepting. Because acceptance, really, is the authentic healing by the intelligence of the light, even if it has been triggered precisely by certain types of light rays. This does not, of course, exempt you from going to a doctor, taking pills, even chemical ones if you want, but accept first, rather than asking yourself what is happening to you. Accept first and ask yourself questions only after, because acceptance creates healing, really and concretely. That doesn't mean it's going to work systematically, but that's what you have to do first. If you have enough lucidity, and you really embrace it, then you will find that suffering, pain, and disease disappear. It is a problem related to faith, not belief, not faith in any savior or becoming, but faith in who you are, even if you are not yet living it. It is beyond any belief. Acceptance, reception, yes, is a movement that brings you back to the great silence. Of course, if you have an organic pathology that appears, that has appeared in the lumbar region or in the kidneys, for example, or in the bladder, you must obviously treat it physically as well, but above all, embrace it and accept it. Because acceptance really creates the most appropriate conditions for the action of the intelligence of the light. The action of the intelligence of the light is always a grace, a solution. All this is the same game that is played on the stage in every possible way to make you discover who you really are, to make you remember who you are, beyond being. Everything is written, nothing is there by chance. Even the greatest chance is not a coincidence, it is the impression it gives from the person's point of view. Look at Nisargadatta, and others, such as Sri Aurobindo. You know that Sri Aurobindo died of kidney failure, but in the last moments of his life, he came and went freely out of his body. And when he returned in his body, in moments of lucidity, Mother was at his side. He told him what he was living and Mother told him, if you saw this light and you can come back and express yourself, you must come back completely, to let the world benefit from the truth. And he had said no, there was no way I was coming back into illusion, but he had said, I will come back when the Spramental has come back to Earth, and I will express myself through a channel to complete what I had to say. Look at Baidu, who died anyway at the end of his life from throat cancer, with his damn cigarettes there, the Indian Baidus. It's a terrible suffering of throat cancer, and yet he was simply expressing at the end that he was a little tired. He was not affected, even though he knew he was leaving, he was in acceptance. And besides, he said it, when his wife died, he danced with joy around his coffin. Was he crazy? No, not at all, he finally knew that his wife had lived the truth. Laughs. Who spoke? Sister. It was someone who laughed. Ah. That's right. Nothing is serious in this world. And the more you are affected by something that seems serious and serious to you, the more you discover liveness. It's weird, huh? But that's how it is, everything is written, you're just going through what was written at the initial moment of creation. Only the consciousness believes itself immortal, as does the soul, but the consciousness is not immortal. What is immortal is you. Consciousness is just a tool of perception, manifestation, and experience. It is a particular means of expression, as words are a means of expression, as telepathy in other galaxies is a common means of expression. Sister. Concerning acceptance, it was something I tried to do during the 2 months of suffering. Then I thought to myself that, well, I know the whole theory, the acceptance, all that, there, laughs, but, I never said it worked the first time. For some people, yes. Sister. But what do I need to accept all this, really? Precisely nothing. I would say that it is rather things to be removed, the lost habits, the lost beliefs, well hidden in the unconscious and the subconscious, to be still somewhere identified with this body. That's all, there's nothing missing. Acceptance is also a process of maturation. For some people, you accept once and it's over. Others, you must go through many sufferings, many imbalances, in order to live the real acceptance. Acceptance creates the crossing and creates the resolution. You have brothers and sisters today who heal spontaneously, they have not asked anyone for anything. And others who die, despite all they can do. But remember that it is always the vital fire, the fire of the person, not to mention the ego. I am no longer talking about the ego there but the vital, primordial fire, the vitality, which directs your consciousness, and which is based on your consciousness. So obviously, when vitality decreases, it can be embarrassing for your vehicle, for everything you have to do, but it's very beneficial for who you are. At some point, you can no longer do, you can only be, and doing it is done by itself from the very beginning. It is also part of a gape. Don't consider something you miss, don't consider something you wouldn't have understood, assimilated or lived, without that you put a distance. Simply considers that the embrace, the acceptance, the yes, must sometimes be repeated in countless circumstances. Sometimes it is easier in family situations, sometimes it is easier with diseases. It's different for everyone, but it always leads you to the truth. Even death leads to truth, but it is death only of illusions, not of who you are. Quite the contrary, especially now that there is no longer any possibility of being reintegrated into any matrix whatsoever. Do you have anything else to add or was that all? Sister. That was all, thank you very much. Silence. Any other questions or testimonies? Sister. Yes, we have a sister approaching. Sister. Hello OMA. Hello. Sister. As I know that you really like the testimonies, I want to make a brief testimony. When I read a message on Facebook from a brother, in the time that passed as I read these few lines, it was only 3 lines, a short text, I immediately, I found myself in this hole. I was no longer physically where I was. I had already experienced this, and I share this lived experience, because it was so simple that I want to testify, to share with all those who read and all those who listen to these channelings, and that they become aware that it is so easy to find each other, to recognize each other. That's all. Thank you very much. Yes, it's so simple, so easy, it seems unbelievable. Above all, in particular, not only for those who do not live it, but for all those who are still somewhere in a so-called evolutionary scenario, in a future scenario. I have said it and I repeat it as our sister said, the more firmly you are lucid and present in the present, and you live it, there is nothing else to do. So, of course, you have crystals, you have ergonites, you have agape resonances, you have the breathing movement of the skull that Eberhard taught you, but today it is done spontaneously. We have already had spontaneous testimonies, and you will see more and more, of brothers and sisters who were simply in their lives without questioning anything. They were absorbed in their lives, and often in sometimes difficult situations, in the service of the husband, the children, if they are women, often, with sometimes intense suffering, not to have time to take care of themselves, to be too devoted for others, for example. These will live spontaneously, they will be struck by lightning, by agape and by the black hole. They will recognize each other instantly. If you accept, even if you don't understand it, that it's something that's extremely simple, and extremely easy, you've already done it if I can say 3/4 of the way. You still have to accept, embrace and say yes. Don't ask anything, you have nothing to ask, it's already in you, it just has to be recognized and revealed, and it's lived. And the more the days and weeks of this month of December move forward, after this Black November, in this multicolored December, the more you will discover that it is childishly simple. For countless years we have provided you with all the frames of reference, the 4 pillars of the heart, the foundation of the 12 stars, the 12 gates, the tuning between the body and the ephemeral and the body of eternity. It was the prerequisite for the dissolution of any body. And today indeed, it will become, I would say, even simpler every day. And the more you are in pain to tell yourself, but I don't live it or I have lived it, the more likely you will be to live it. And as I said, there are countless of you now who have never heard of the afterlife, of vibrations, of spirituality, to live it. Even if I can't put the words on it. You have brothers and sisters who wake up one morning and feel love, and they do not feel the energies, they feel that there is something that is there, that lives and that is them. They do not feel the chakras, they do not feel the stars, the doors, they do not even know what they are, and they live it. It is indeed so simple. The door is open, there is no key, it has never been locked, there has never been a lock. And besides, there was never a door. It's not a pun there either, it's the strict truth. As long as it's not lived, it will seem complicated to you. That's why I'm telling you, accept that it's easy. I am not asking you to solve the equation of why it is easy, but accept that it is easy, embrace it, say yes, and if it is not in the moment it will be in the next instant, at another instant in the present moment. You will live it, it is inevitable. No one can escape it. And the more you will live it, I repeat, before the collective event, the individual event, the easier it will be. The longer the illusory time goes by, the more days go by, the easier it will become. Besides, you know very well that when you live agape, you can no longer search for a date of the event, you don't care, royally, even if you're interested, out of curiosity about what is happening on Earth or in the cosmos, or about the elements, about societies. But you are not worried, you spend time, if you are very busy, with your responsibilities, and you say that you do not have time, it is because you must be in these circumstances to live the truth. Being busy with something other than thinking about agape is also a way to get more directly to agape. As soon as you're immersed in the here and now, as Enel Hikebungs said, the more you are in the present instant, and the more the zero time reveals itself, and the more you recognize yourself. And the more joyful you are, the lighter you are, even if the body suffers, and even if your mind manifests itself. You're no longer fooled. This does not mean that in this state of agape and joy, everything is fluid, we know it, we live it, but it does not mean that everything is always easy, but everything is crossed with ease. It makes a big difference. And it is by living it that you can testify to it, and this simple testimony, as a sister said earlier, that I really like these testimonies. But I don't like it for me, because I know there is resonance power in everyone's heart, whatever the scenario and whatever the words. Whatever the individual experience, whatever the way you testify, whether it is a dream, whether it is something that occurs or happens in your life or in your body, because you are truthful, because you give yourself up by testifying, because you dare to reveal yourself. Because you dare to say, you make the brothers and sisters who listen, who hear or who will read resound. By giving witness, you give witness to life and truth, and to give this witness frees you even more and makes brothers and sisters resound, and also discover themselves at that time. Because it is lived, it is not concepts, it is no longer teachings, neither the structure of the body of eternity nor on the vibratory structures, nor on the consciousness in its history, the origins, the stellar lines and all that has been so important at a given moment. That's where it's much easier. And it will be all the easier for those who are in the natural humility of their lives, serving their children, serving all the time, even if they suffer from it. They have already given themselves, they have nothing to lose, they seek nothing, they keep quiet, even if they're overflowing with activities. And they live it. You see, it is in this sense that it is indeed terribly simple, today. This was not the case when we the elders were. Moreover, as we have always said, the only one to have lit the whole truth, there was only one until recently, only one was Nisargadatta. Even those who first wrote about non-duality in Kashmir Tantrism, in Advaita, have not reached the degree of lucidity and truth that Nisargadatta delivered to the world. Of course, there is no question of creating a worship, or a religion or a movement of anything. Nisargadatta's life, his interviews and what he has said since 2012 is the strict truth. Everything else was just stories, useful in their time. Everything was written and prepared, long before creation, long before this world was locked up, long before the 5 cycles in which the liberation of the earth had failed, as you know. As if by chance, this is the 6th and final attempt. As if by chance, many prophets and initiates have spoken of the 6 rude races, with the beings to come, the blue race of the new earth. But the blue race of the new earth is nothing more than the return to the first dream, that of the great genetic mothers, the guardians of the dream, of Feham. And if today it still seems extremely complicated to you, don't worry, it will become very simple. It takes very little, not from you, but from the circumstances of the life and intelligence of the light, to make you live it. But more and more of you are saying it, it's so simple, and it's so beautiful. So of course, if you're an artist, you can translate it into canvas, music, poetry. But not everyone has these abilities, and it's not important after all. The important thing is the naked truth. The important thing is joy. Everything else passes, and everything else will pass. Joy will never pass, because you know by living it that it is the truth and that there is no other. No matter how hard your life is, or how easy it is, it doesn't make any difference today. Silence. Anything else? Sister. It's over, Omre arm. It's over, what does that mean? Sister. The time is already over. You scared me, I thought it was the event, that it was. Laughs. Good. What I love about everyone laughing. So I give you all my blessings, but you are not done with me, I will come back twice. Applause. And I tell you, as usual, all my blessings and agape. Brothers and sisters, agape. Goodbye. Brothers and sisters, goodbye. Through Jean-Luc Young Les Transformations English Revised Translation, LMF.